We're going to solve by completing the square. Let's take an equation like x squared minus 8x equals 84. If we want to solve by completing the square, that means on this side of the equation, where I see my two terms, I need to complete the square. I'm going to rewrite it and give myself some space. I'm also going to add like an empty box to both sides because in algebra, whatever I'm going to add to one side, I need to add to the other. And this will help remind me. So in this step, to complete the square, we look at that middle term right here, the negative 8, the coefficient is negative 8. I divide by 2 and square it. Negative 4 squared is 16. And 16 is what I add to both sides. Parentheses, squared equals, 84 plus 16 is 100. So what goes in these parentheses? Remember, when we complete the square, the x goes here. The negative sign comes along for the ride because remember, that negative 4 is what I'm going to put right here. So negative 8 divided by 2 squared is where the 16 came from. Negative 8 divided by 2, negative 4, is where this comes from. And now we undo squaring with square root. So undo square root x minus 4 squared equals plus or minus square root 100. The whole point of taking the square root is to undo the squaring of this left-hand side. And now I'm able to write x minus 4. This is the part where we do the undoing. Sometimes we say we're using inverse, or invert. We're using inverses, I guess we could just say. X minus 4 is plus or minus 10. And now I'm going to write two equations. X minus 4 is negative 10, and x minus 4 is positive 10. We add 4, so we're continuing to solve our problem. X equals negative 6, add 4, and x equals 14. These are the solutions to our quadratic equation. We can also write them in curly brackets, negative 6, and the 14. These are the values of the variable that make the equation up here true. So those are our solutions. Let's solve the next one by completing the square. To set this up, I'm going to move the constant term to the other side. It says subtract 7. So we're going to move it by adding 7 to both sides. X squared plus 6x plus, I'm going to leave my blank space, 0 plus 7 is 7, and plus with my box. And now we're ready to complete the square. Complete the square on the left-hand side. We look at that middle term, or what we've been calling b. I take half of that number and square it. Half of 6 is 3, squared is 9. And I'll put 9 in the box. X squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 16. You've completed the square, and now let's write this trinomial as a perfect square. X plus 3. That's why we show the work on this side. And now we're going to undo squaring with square root. Square root x plus 3 squared plus or minus square root 16. Remember the whole point of getting rid of this with the square root, the idea of using inverses. If you look on your calculator, and if you look for the calculator button that says x squared, right above it is the radical sign. Kind of helps us understand that these are inverses of each other. One will undo the other. The square root of 16 is 4. And I'll write my two equations. We'll always be writing 2. How did I get these answers? Well, in the step above, I didn't show the work, but if I'm adding 3 to x, to solve for x, I subtract 3. If I'm adding 3 to x, I undo it by subtracting 3. And I'll put in curly brackets my solutions. With the next example, we've got some terms to combine. We're still going to solve by completing the square. So we set it up by isolating these. I'm going to move the 11 over. X squared plus 12x plus, remember, put your box, equals 26. Now we complete the square. Try and do it on your own before I finish my next step. Pause the video. I hope you took half of 12 and squared it. 6 squared is 36. Oops, I forgot to add my box. 36. So something squared is 26 plus 36. And that's going to be 62. This will be x plus 6. Again, how do you know what to write here? It's half the middle term. 6 is half of 12. 6 squared is 36. Now we solve by undoing. Plus or minus square root 62. X plus 6 is plus or minus the square root of 62. Now 62 is not a perfect square, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And this type of number is called irrational. So I'm going to leave it. But I still set up two equations. X plus 6 is negative root 62. X plus 6 is positive root 62, or radical 62. Now when I take away the 6, I cannot combine these two numbers because they're different types of numbers. I'm going to write the 6 in front as a negative 6 and then minus root 62 at the end. Remember, this number here is rational. The negative 6 is rational, and the square root 62 is irrational, and I cannot combine them. They're different types of numbers. So on this side here, I do the same thing. X will be negative 6 plus, remember this is a plus, square root 62. And those are your answers. Now, some teachers might let you write it like this, and I'll put it over to the side. Some people might allow you to write negative 6 like this and then put plus minus square root 62 and write them like that. Where that plus minus sign, it's understood that there are two solutions. But whether you write it this way or you write them separately, doesn't matter. They're still the same solutions. Okay, I hope that helped.